Well, I don't think we have a very difficult task here, really. This SPP is such a bad idea. It's so totally unappealing that as soon as people get to know what it's all about, it's going to collapse. Because what is it we're standing for here? We're standing for Canada, right? But we're also standing for democracy, right? Who tried to put this over? Well, it's this group of big corporations, executives. The Canada Council of Chief Executives, for one. What have they got to do with it? Well, they were so shocked after 9/11 when the United States government all of a sudden got hot on security that they realized that their profits were in danger because there was real danger to trade with the United States. And of course, they had gotten us into the position of having over 70% of our trade with the United States, so it really was quite a crisis. So they came up with this whole idea of just caving in to the United States on security matters. But of course they couldn't put this to the people, right? No. They had to go through the back door. Right. It's just a matter of regulations over things like jelly beans. Right?
I hate jelly beans!
So they avoided Parliament altogether. The whole thing was slipped through under the rug, behind the door, where nobody could see it. But now it's coming out into the open, and people like you are bringing it out there. I'm really proud to see it. Because this is a decision which should be made democratically. And you know who's running the SPP? It's another group of big business people called the North American Competitive Council or something, right? It's...
Yeah!
No, it's another group now. Competitive Council. They're worried about North America's competitiveness. Well, really, they're just 25 executives of enormous North American corporations, mostly American, of course, and they're worried about their profits, right? And so they're the ones who are pushing this thing, both without any real approval from the legislatures of any of the three countries involved, and certainly not with the approval of the people. That's not democratic, right? And we're for democracy, right? I think most of the people in Canada are for democracy, don't you? Well, I don't think it's going to be very difficult to convince people in Canada about that. All right, but then there's another thing. There's a thing called independence, right? You know, for years, Canada was a colony, then a dominion of Great Britain. We weren't independent. Our foreign policy was controlled from London. Most of our economy was controlled from London, et cetera, and finally, we broke free from that. All right. Now, are we going to go back and institute the same relationship with Washington? No! Do people in Canada want that? No! Do you think we'll have a very hard time convincing them of that? No! Okay. So, what about independence? What does independence mean? Gordon's mentioned some of the things. First of all, it means an independent foreign policy, right?
Yeah.
Right. Do we have an independent foreign policy? No. We just give knee-jerk reactions every time George Bush, calls on us. That's not independence. We want independence, right? And we want a foreign policy which keeps us out of things like Afghanistan, keeps us out of supporting the U.S. war on terror all the time. All right, what about energy? Don't we want an independent energy policy? Why is it that Canada, among the major developed countries, is the only one that doesn't have a national petroleum reserve, just in case of some sort of emergency? Why is that? Right.
Tell me! Right.
Why is it that almost, 70-80% of this oil that they're extracting from the tar sand is heading south of the border rather than into eastern Canada. We import something like 35–40% of our oil into this country and then ship all of this oil south to the States. That's not energy independence. What about environmental independence, right?
Yeah.
Why are we so behind Europe in regard to the energy crisis, the whole greenhouse gas crisis? Why is that? Well, it's because our whole energy policy is tied into that of the United States. And the United States is way behind on the greenhouse gas crisis. That's not independence, right? It's not independence at all. We want independence.
We want independence!
Right. I could go on here. What about regulations with regard to health, with regard to imports from the States with regard to health? Do we have to kowtow to the United States and their standards on this? I don't think so. So, all we have to do is show that this is a matter of democracy and independence. Once that gets out there, people will respond. Now, I want to mention, in addition, 2 upcoming dates. On Saturday, March 15th, there's going to be a march against the war in Iraq, against Canada's involvement in Afghanistan. That's something to get out for. And then coming up in April is the next SPP meeting. It's going to be down in New Orleans. And maybe some of us can get down there. There's a lot of Americans who are just as upset about this whole thing as we are. And we need to join with them to do that. All right. I think we've gone a long ways here. We're at the start of something which is going to really snowball here. And snowball right on into summer. And people are going to learn about this. Thank you for getting out and starting this movement.